What's going on, y'all? This your boy, Chris Simmons, coming to you with another podcast episode. And as always, I'm with my partner in crime, all the way from Puerto Rico. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce y'all to Miss Sandra Cruz. What's going on with you, girl? How you doing?
Hey, Chris. I'm happy to be back here, man. Have one of these what are beautiful conversations, as I like to call them. These great discussions that we having. I have to tell you, thank you, Chris, for having me. I'm appreciative of that. We're creating great things. We're gonna go far.
Bad, bad. That's what's up. That's what's up. For announcements, I want to give y'all an announcement. So so far we before the show, we planned on days we can do this episode, and I am glad to say that as of now, Miss Sandra Cruz is gonna be on every Monday. So basically, you're gonna get a taste of her, and I'm just really excited to be partnering with her. So Miss Sandra Cruz, we're gonna be in the booth every Monday, but today's Tuesday, by the way, because yesterday she had some issues with the people showing up late because they were trying to install some new Wi-Fi for her so we can at least have some decent episodes. But these people was tripping. I already knew when they told her that they were going to be there between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. Listen, I've worked for companies like that. I know how it be. They ain't gonna come at the time you want them to come. They're gonna come later. So when they tell you, when somebody tell you, oh, we're gonna be out there around 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, they capping. They ain't gonna be out there that early. They may
They
not
lying.
come. They already lying.
They're lying.
So so just know that, man. So yeah, she was trying to take care of that, but luckily she got the internet just in time before we got on this episode. So we're gonna have some better episodes, some decent episodes, at least on her end. My Wi-Fi always been pretty good. It's always been pretty decent. But yeah, but that's what's been going on. But every Monday so far, she will be on the shows, and we'll be giving y'all some great content. Really excited for it. I'm glad to be back in the booth myself. Like I told y'all, man, I decided to take a week off because I was on my spring break. I was in Philly, and let me tell you something. That was a fun time. I'm not gonna go all into it just because I know it'll take a minute for me to describe everything, but I'll just kind of give y'all the highlights of the trip. So I told y'all I was going to this nice steakhouse, Del Frisco. That was the bomb. Shout out to my uncle for spotting the bill. Had some phenomenal steak. Got me a 22-ounce ribeye, and it got this phenomenal butter cake that they had there. The dessert was phenomenal. The steak was phenomenal. The appetizer, the whole nine was phenomenal. Saturday, we went downtown, man. Got to explore the city, got to see some attractions such as the Liberty Bell. We got to see Independence Hall, the African American Museum, the Rocky Steps, and of course, we had to get a Philly cheesesteak. I mean, you can't go to Philly unless you get the Philly cheesesteak. So we got the Philly cheesesteak. That was the bomb. Sunday, got to go up to Lafayette. My roommate, who I went on a trip with, we got to see his cousin. We got to spend like half a day there. So it was phenomenal time. It was phenomenal time, a way for me to relax, get away for a little bit, nice weekend getaway. But now I'm back in the booth, man. We about to live some fire. We
Yeah,
about to
yeah.
be super hot fire. Y'all already know what I'm talking about. So we are back in the booth, and I'm ready to deliver this episode. Um, so I had briefly touched on this in one of my previous episodes that me and Sandra did back. It was released on March 14th, but we recorded in February. This was back when I titled this episode called A Healthy Mindset. And this was when I told the story about one of my roommates that we had a disagreement with, and how he got all mad, and because he didn't see eye to eye with us politically, socially, and all that stuff. And so the way he decided to take it out on us was he decided to wake us up in the middle of the night and start yelling at us for no reason, just because he had a problem with our opinion. And it's just so crazy how nowadays, you know, people are quick to become offended because of a different opinion. I've
Mm.
like, I don't know where this came from though. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's almost like you can't say anything without somebody getting offended. And what happens is a lot of these things, bro, especially that the media tries to portray, it causes what I call the great divides. See, living in America now, I know it's different. It may be a little different out there in your part of town, you know, in Puerto Rico. But I know here in the States, there's a lot of things, and I'm sure you're probably aware of this too, because I know you're not oblivious to it. There are a lot of things in the US of A that cause people to get offended because there are different things, different systems, different types of propaganda that causes people to be divided. One big example, I got a list. I made a list of like my, basically a list of the great divides that I see here in America from my perspective. The biggest one out of this whole list is Democratic and Republican. My goodness. My goodness. I mean, this is probably what offends people the most here in America, is how we can't get along because somebody identifies as a Democrat or somebody identifies as a Republican. This is what is really separating people, man. It's like you can't even have an opinion about a presidential candidate. What happened to having free speech, man? Just because you don't agree with who people vote for or who people stand for does not mean that they aren't good people. You know what I'm saying? Just because they may have voted for one candidate or voted for another candidate does not mean that, oh, we got to try to cancel them. Oh, we can't be friends just because you identify as a Democrat or Republican. I'm friends with people who identify as Republican. I'm friends with people who identify as Democrat. Now, I'm not trying to get too political, but I'm just giving you an example of opinions that people get so hurt by, and people can't look past the fact that, oh, I identify as Republican. Okay, what does that have to do with you? What is their character have to do with how they treat you just because I identify as that? So that's one thing that I've noticed, man. It's just politics, man. Politics really gets into people's heads for real, and it really strains relationships. I had the roommate that I actually went on the trip with, he told me about his aunt that cut him off because he didn't vote Democrat. I'm like, bruh. First of all, he didn't vote anyway. He didn't vote Republican, so I don't want y'all to get no ideas. He actually did not vote. He chose not to vote, and that is his right. He did not vote. And some people cut you off of that because you believe you don't agree. So because he didn't vote Democrat, because that's what she identifies as, she cut him off. And I was like, bro, that's wild. And so that's what I mean, man. That's an example. Like, people will cut you off just because you don't do what they do. And that's the craziest thing. Another thing that I've realized that has been implemented here in the past few years since the pandemic, there's been a divide between people who are vaccinated and people who ain't vaccinated. Come on.
Yes.
Why is there this? That's a personal decision. I don't care how you feel. I know somebody might be like, oh, if you ain't vaccinated, you ain't not vaccinated. I don't care how you feel. Them people have a right to their opinion. But the media has made it seem like people who ain't vaccinated are a menace to society. That's how they do it. But listen, your opinion is your opinion. I don't care. I got a roommate who ain't vaccinated, but that don't mean I'm gonna cut him off because of an opinion.
I have plenty of family members who aren't vaccinated either. And that conversation has come up so much that I'm so tired of it already. I say to people, listen, whatever you want to do is whatever you want to do. It's your personal choice. It doesn't affect me either way. Whether I get sick or not, hey, I've got to take care of myself. It is now your personal responsibility to take care of yourself. And it always will be. Not just because there's a pandemic. It's your responsibility to take care of yourself hygienically and every other way that you can take care of yourself, including mindset. And if you want to have a peace of mind, and stay out of other folks' business. You're going to have a big peace of mind then. you know, And that's one of the things I wanted to make a point though and back it up on the political on what you were talking about politically. It's so interesting because even though I here in Puerto Rico, we are not allowed to vote for the president of the United States. We are set apart as we're kind of set apart. Some people would like to believe that we're treated as second class citizens. Whether that's true or not, I can't say that. That would call for me to actually know what's on the mind of the government and how they feel about us. And that's operation of the mind. I'll never know that. But what I can say is that I've seen the divide politically in the comments and like Facebook and things of that nature. Now, I can tell you, when I went through what I went through with Maria, there was a huge divide. Hurricane Maria annihilated this island, and I was here for that. And you can tell in the comments how politically structured Hurricane Maria became. Why? Because um, it became a lot of Republicans, and not because Democrats are seen as much more liberal. And I just want to say, well, liberal people. Okay. So, and Republicans, of course, we know they're conservative. So, not to get too much into that, but, in the comments, I can remember it also became tied to race because I was told that I was uneducated, that Puerto Rico needed to work for itself and find its own resources when we're in the middle of water. So I mean, like, where was we supposed to get the resources? But it was a lot of political badger, and they're like, oh, because Trump was in office then. And I just remember being so fed up with it. Like, okay, you can believe whatever you want, but to really come out and show off and say that we don't deserve anything because of your political thought, because of where you took your political thought to go towards, it was quite frustrating. And as a minority, it was even more frustrating because then, they made it about race. And so that's another divide. And so for me, it was like it was really big. It was really big. I was, you know, um, another thought that I had was during that time as well. My uncle, he supports Trump, and he supports Republican Party, but I love him dearly. He's like my dad. So I never he would tell me, "Oh, the greatest president," and yada yada, and I would not say a word to him because you want to know what? It's okay for him to believe what he wants to believe. That's not going to change what I think about him, and it's not going to change where my relationship is with him. And I would just go, "Oh, really? I didn't know." And he brought some facts to the table that I didn't even know, and those facts, and I was able to actually come to a what's that, like a middle agreement with him. And so with that being said, I was able to be okay with it. I was able to be okay with him. I was able to be okay with who he voted for, with what he thought and I just kept going. Like I didn't put any more thought to it, even though it may not have been necessarily what I thought, but I wasn't gonna let that divide me or divide our relationship. I wasn't gonna cut him off. Blood is thicker than anything for me. So
Oh, if you think about it, man, I've had a lot of time to think lately, and I've been noticing some things that's been going on in the world, and it seems like it's getting a lot worse, man, with just a lot of stuff going on, man, and how much divide and hatred that we have. My thing is this, man. We were created to build each other up. You know what I'm saying? It's like all this division, man. This wasn't how we was meant to be, man. Everybody human just like everybody else. Everybody be red just like everybody bleed red. You know what I'm saying? We all
oh
human, man. You know what I'm saying?
yes.
We were created to build each other up. And see, the problem is sometimes because we can't get over the differences of a person is what really makes us feel like, oh, we can't be friends. Let me tell you something. If a person is willing to help build your foundation, then that's the person you need to keep close with you. You
Say
know
it
what I'm saying?
again.
Let me say it again. If a person is willing to help build your foundation, then that's the person you need to keep close with you. It don't matter. Just like, for example, my parents are a perfect example. You know, as I've gotten older and I started seeing the world for myself, there are things that my parents believe that I don't agree with. I don't agree with everything my parents say. I'm gonna be the first one to tell you. I don't agree with everything my mom say. I don't agree with everything my dad say. Because I've seen, because like just being on my own, I have learned to think. Because when you're in that environment with your parents, you know, they want you to see what they see. But keep in
Yeah,
mind, your parents human too. Your parents don't know everything. So that
yeah,
don't mean just because they're parents, you gotta agree. But what do I love about my parents the most? They helped build my foundation. Even though we don't see eye to eye on some things. And I'm not gonna get into it because that's personal. But I'm just saying, like, I'm sure I ain't the first one to have disagreements with their parents. But
no,
you know what?
absolutely.
But you know what? They've helped raise me and they helped build my foundation. They helped take care of me. They was at every sports game that I participated in. They was always there, you know, to take care of me. They was sacrificing, you know, to put food on the table. You know what I'm saying? Make sure that we grew up nice. So that's what I look at my parents, not necessarily what they believe politically, not necessarily how they what they believe socially, economically. I don't care. I see differently from them. But what I really love is how they were willing to help build me and they was willing to help support me. I got friends like that
Yeah,
too. Not everything my friends do, I agree with.
right.
I tell them, I say, man, I don't agree with this lifestyle. Some of them, you know, get caught up in lifestyles that I don't agree with. But you know what? I got friends who's also willing to build my foundation. So just because something about your family or somebody your friend is not in line with what you believe, but yet again, if they sacrifice it for you and they willing to support you in whatever you're trying to do, guess what? It shouldn't matter if they're a Republican. It shouldn't matter if they vaccinated. It shouldn't matter what religion, you know, what type of phone they got. It shouldn't matter about anything. But what should matter is what what is their character like? Are they a good person? Are they willing to make sacrifices for you? Are they willing to basically be there by your side?
Yeah,
That's what you
I
got to
think
look at.
yeah, I think that one of the biggest things, are they willing to celebrate you? Are they willing to uphold you? Are they willing to put you, and I don't mean like a pedestal, but willing to say to you on a day-to-day basis, like, you know what, you're a good person. Are they willing to bring positivity into your life? If they're not willing to bring positivity in your life, I think that you have to really relook that, because remember, energy, we are all energy. Like your aura is what gives you, gives off. And if you have that type of communication or surround yourself with that people, you become that, and it's not good for you. So it doesn't matter. It should, like you said, it shouldn't matter how you were raised, shouldn't matter your race, your ethnicity, your political background, shouldn't matter anything. And now that I say that, it brings me to a conversation I had. It was online, it was on Facebook, it was a comment. Um, and it was, and let me tell you, you're gonna laugh at this, but it was over the Jada and Will thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's,
Look, I knew you was gonna laugh.
that's
I knew
not
you was
my
gonna laugh.
thing. That's how I think.
But yeah, and it was funny because it was actually from, I think it was like the Breakfast Club or something, had Earthquake on there. I think I don't know if he's the rapper or it was the comedian, because I know there's a comedian named Earthquake. I don't know. Either or, he was on there and he was talking, and his stance was basically that, she's in charge of this mess, the debacle, because of her body language and the things that have occurred in the past. Nonetheless, that's not the topic. But I saw somebody's comment, and it was about, um, why are they always blaming the black woman? And it was just stating a lot of things. And I said, I kindly said, I said, there's a lot of racism in the world, and that's horrible. I don't like it. But I think in this case, this isn't a race thing. We're not blaming her because she's black. We're blaming her because she gave the world a view of herself that wasn't representative of anything or conducive to anything positive. So then she went on to tell me, because when you look at my Facebook, all you see is this face. So you don't know I'm minority. So she said, what she said to me was, you wouldn't know what we go through. And she started assuming. And so then I said to her, well, you don't really know what's going on. And then but then she ended it with saying, this conversation is for my Black brothers and sisters. And I said to her, okay. I said, I understand there's racism. I get where you're coming from, but how would you know that I am not of anything else? So that's where the divide comes in, you know. And I said, don't become the very thing that you despise because you're assuming. And so I let her know I too have been a target of racism. I mean, I was called uneducated. I was told that if my island were to go away with all its people, they'd be happy. And they used the word specifically drown. So they were adamant on making sure that I knew they hated my culture, my ethnicity, and my race. And there is divide there. And so when you keep it going through social media and you see this, it like controls people because what are the one thing people are looking at nowadays? Social media.
Mm, mm.
And it's taken and it took everything in me not to be like, so I just said, how do you know? And I explained my circumstance, what I had gone through, and like the caring and the love and the likes came in. And I'm like, you need to know that racism hits a whole bunch of people, not just Black, not just Hispanic, but there's people that, have had racism happen to them and they could be from India for crying out loud and live in the United States. So there's a lot of divide that's going on right now.
Yeah, racism is like one of those issues, man, that I really never understood why. And really, when when you touched on racism, man, it's like racism. That's also a huge divide here in America,
Oof.
which is not because I was talking to somebody from Nigeria, Ugoji, who was on my previous episode, man. We had an off-camera conversation. We didn't obviously talk about this in the podcast, but we had an off-camera conversation. I was just trying to get a feel for like what it was like because she's from Nigeria and
Yeah.
she has been over here in the States for a few years now. And she told me, she was like, yeah, like I don't understand all this racism stuff because back where she was from, them country, like the country she was in, they're more trained to be more of a community and to lift and build each other up and walk, in unison. But we ain't taught
Yeah.
that over here. You know what I'm
Nope.
saying? We taught to hate people because of the color of their skin. Because we think that the color of somebody's skin determines their character. See, we gotta look
Yes.
past this right here. So this is our
Mm-mm.
problem. Is like we don't ever really want to get to know people who they really are. That's why I talk about you can't judge a book by its cover. That's exactly what this means. You can't just look on the outside and be like, oh man, this dude, man, he look like he a thug. He look like he ain't no good. He look like he a squirrel. But what is making you think that though? And that's a whole deeper conversation because I can get
Whole
into
different
I
conversation.
can I can get into that, man. But really, it's like we gotta look past that, man. We gotta look past color, man. We gotta look, past the fact that all people have influenced us to think that all white people like this, black people like this, Asian people like this. It's like, bro, like I said, we have to, be more in unison, be more of a unity, man. Build each other up for real. Cause we all here on this earth. We all are people at the end of the day. We all have imperfections.
Yeah.
Nobody perfect. So I don't know what you talking about. Oh, I need to surround myself with perfect people. I can only be around certain people. Like, bro, you ain't perfect either. You got issues, just like everybody else got issues. But what's going to allow us to become together is when we talk and be able to communicate our thoughts and our feelings. Some people just can't do that. And some people can't just look past the fact, oh, because you look different than me, I can't be friends with you. Why not? Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
People's differences make for interesting conversations.
Ooh,
I'll tell you that
okay.
right now. Imagine like having a conversation with somebody and they agree with you on everything. The conversation
Boring.
really ain't gonna last that long. You're just gonna be like, oh, okay, yeah, me too, me too, me too. Right? But sometimes I've noticed, like when I've been in conversations with people who don't think like me, I've been able to understand, like, and be able to learn something, man. You know what I'm saying? So having those, conversations, having those differences is what makes interesting conversation. Just like when you in a relationship with a man or a woman or whatever, that person you with, I mean, they gonna agree, they gonna have some similarities, but they ain't gonna line with everything that 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 you stand for. You know what I'm saying? So you may be in a relationship with somebody who like dogs and you don't like dogs. But that
Yeah,
person in that relationship may be able to, share their perspective on why is it that they love dogs so much. And that might
yeah.
be able to get you open-minded. See, it's not always about trying to change the person's views, but instead trying to get them to have an open mind about other things. You know what I'm saying? It's not always about trying to be like, oh, you ain't no vegan, so you need to change and become a vegan. No, I ain't necessarily about that. It's about trying to get them to be open-minded. So even though at the end of the day, you may talk to them about why it's good to be vegan, why it's good to, really like dogs and all this stuff, and whoop to whoop. But at the end of the day, you don't want to necessarily go in there and be like, oh, I'm trying to change you. But yeah, I'll give you a perspective to where you can have an open mind and you can have something to think about. You know what I'm saying? And that way, like, even though you walk away, you do your thing, at least like you've had that conversation. And at least
Yeah.
like you can still, be on good terms. You know what I'm saying? See, I think that's the problem with a lot of us. So a lot of us, we go in there trying to change people for real and trying to like really get them to be something that they're not. But the reality is people gonna do them. People gonna be that,
No,
huh?
they're they're gonna do them, and I have to agree with the off-camera conversation you had with this young it's a young lady. I'm assuming, right? She's a young lady, but when she said there, we don't really have that. I feel the same experience here in Puerto Rico. We really don't have that. And we have, listen, we have redheaded Puerto Ricans, we have black Puerto Ricans, we have blonde Puerto Ricans. I mean, my cousin, for example, she has blue eyes. My brother's blue eyes, blonde hair. I mean, and I'm brown eyes, brown hair. Um, we have a lot of we have people that come from Trinidad, from all the Caribbeans to live here, and then they intermingle and we become all one. So, okay, you may have one person who decided I want to be a colorist, but we don't see that here. And like you said, tying that into everything else, you know, you can't make anybody believe anything that they don't, that they don't want to believe in or that they just don't believe. But how do we get to the point where we actually just have that conversation, become mature, and be able to have those conversations and accept that someone is actually different from us? How do we get to that point where we could say, oh, well, this person is different, I'm going to respect their opinion? How do we get there, you know, without creating a divide? Because people want to drive their what they believe so hardcore that they end up cutting people off. They end up not having friends, or they end up saying, oh, over the silliest things. I had someone cut me off over stupid comments over social media for something else because I gave my opinion. I mean, I wasn't rude. I wasn't being anything. I just gave my opinion and I was cut off. I was cut off and told that and this is here's the crazy part. It wasn't even with me. It was, I don't know if you remember the Sandy Hook shooting where
Oh yeah.
so yeah, it happened in Connecticut. And so it was an argument between my sister and someone else, and my sister was not really even arguing because she's older than me. God bless her, I love her. um but she was letting it known because this person kept saying this never happened, and I'm watching these two people go at it. And well, more so her, and she texts me and she said to me, you either do this and tell this or we end. And I said, first of all, that's my sister, and second of all, I don't have to do anything. What I will ask is that you stop, and I will have a conversation, and I'll tell my sister as well. Now, mind you, I knew my sister wasn't doing anything wrong, but I was being quite fair. And so I lost that person as a friend over some comments. But then I realized as well, maybe this was better because sometimes God places people in your life and takes them away for a certain reason, because we all know He works in mysterious ways. And so for me, it's like, if you have this mindset where you're trying to change me and you get upset because I have a different opinion than yours and you decide to exit the friendship or whatever relationship we have, then I'll let you go peacefully. I'll know that you weren't meant to be around because I want to be around people who can accept who I am and I can accept their opinion. So I think the question lies, how do we get there?
The thing is, man, we got to be more open-minded for real. And we got to be willing to listen and learn. You know what I'm saying? Like I said before, sometimes, you know, when people share their perspective, it's not necessarily trying to condemn them. You're trying to be like, oh, yeah, you wrong. Like, you no good. You know, you're a bunch of, you know, you saying a bunch of BS and all this stuff. Like, nah. You know, that's one thing I've had to learn too. Like, I wasn't perfect at that before. You know, I used to be stuck in my ways and have my set mindset, not willing to listen to other people. But, you know, I had to be open-minded to know that, hey, like, I'm going to be around people that's not going to see eye to eye all the time. You know what I'm saying? My
Yeah.
focus has been to be around people like who are going to build your foundation. And that's what I emphasized earlier. So being able to have an open mind and be willing to, like we talked about 2 episodes ago about having a healthy mindset, right? Having that healthy mindset is where you can filter you can kind of filter those thoughts to where not everything you got to snap back at. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to be quick to react to everything. You just sit there and
Right.
listen. And sometimes, man, you don't even really need to respond for real.
Nope.
Sometimes, you know, it's not always about trying to retaliate just because somebody said something that you don't agree with. You know, I mean, obviously, I mean, you can like let them know, like, hey, respectfully, I don't agree with that. And that's cool. You know, we got to get to
Yeah.
a point where we, you know, if somebody says something we don't agree with, you got to be like, hey, man, I don't agree with that. But you know what? You know, hey, that's all right. And
I
let's move
think,
on.
yeah, exactly. You know what I think that would help that too is a lot of people tend to have a voice of judgment. The first thing that comes up is a voice of judgment, and you said it. So why not turn that into curiosity? Well, why does this person feel like this? Let me find out more about how you feel and understand it. People don't want to understand someone else nowadays. What they want to do is have them believe what they believe, and they think that if we all are all alike, then you can be in my circle. And that's not the case. Like you said earlier, we're not all going to agree with everything we do and say and feel and think, or the views that we have. But I think that if we change our voice of judgment to one of curiosity, I think it gets better. I mean, I know I've learned at 42 years old, I've learned to really slow down and try to understand people before I make a judgment or shut them down because they don't think what I think. So I ask questions. Well, what do you mean by that? How does that happen? So let me understand this more. You feel this way. And people actually will talk to you. People will actually, in a calm, collective fashion, versus me being like, oh, you look at you, or being quick to judge, even in social media, which I've seen it a lot. So I think that changing your voice of judgment to curiosity is one way that we can actually come to a point of understanding with each other.
Yeah. Really, it comes down to communication. A
That's
lot of things blow up is because of miscommunication. That's basically like the common key factor to why it's hard for people to really understand each other, because it's miscommunication at the end of the day.
yeah,
Right? It's always, you know, like going back to my incident with my roommate and why he blew up on us. At the end of the day, that whole incident, if you want to hear the full story, go back and watch A Healthy Mindset, episode 83. You want to hear the whole story. But really, if you think about that incident, it was all because of miscommunication. Because he
yeah,
thought that he heard something that we said, and he didn't want to ask us anything about it. He didn't want to, confirm that with us, but instead he wanted to just blow up in our face and just say
Yep.
and just make accusations that weren't true. And that's the
Voice
problem
of
with a lot
judgment.
of us. A lot of us just don't communicate with each other. It's just like when somebody like walking down the street and they get all tight. You ever had that happen to you where somebody, be walking down the street, you just be looking, right? Because you just looking at your surrounding. You ever had somebody come up to you and be like, "What you looking at?"
Oh,
Like, bro, like,
oh.
you know what I'm saying? Like, what's wrong with you?
Like nothing. I ain't even looking at you.
Like, what you looking at? Why you looking at me? How you know I was looking at you? You could just ask, like, "Hey, were you looking at me?" You know what I'm saying? That's what we're talking about. That's an example. That's a quick example right there. Talking about miscommunication right there. It's like, bro, I could have been looking like I may have been looking your direction, but down that same mean I was looking at you. I could have been looking at the building that was behind you.
Yep.
Yeah, I could have been looking at the car that went past you. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of this stuff. So I use that example because a lot of these disagreements happen because of miscommunication. Because what we do, we have selective attention span. We don't hear the full thing. We only hear what we want to hear. And
Oh,
so the reason
say that
we
again.
see
Say that again.
we have a selective attention span because we only hear what we want to hear. So when we come
Yes.
back at a person, we ain't really listening to them. We hearing them, but we ain't listening to what they really saying. So that's why people like, oh, you said this. Oh man, you racist, you bigot, all that stuff. Like you
Oh,
can come at that person and you don't even hear the full story.
yep.
So
Because you was listening not to listen. You was listening to respond. And that's the problem too. People don't listen and really try to understand. Like I said, the voice of curiosity. Well, why'd they say this? What they do is they listen just to respond instead of listening, which brings me to this point. Every time, for example, if I'm in a podcast, I repeat every word you say sometimes in my brain because I'm actively listening. And I got taught I got taught that through my coaching career. Actively listen. Listen to what the person is saying. Repeat every word they're saying and then respond. That way you know you've reviewed what they've said. You've gravitated towards what they said. You've recorded it in your mind. But if you're not doing that, you're doing exactly what you're talking about right now. And that they just respond and just shoot off at the mouth. And then there becomes the divide, the problem.
the thing we don't do is we don't ask questions. See,
Mm,
I'm a big advocate for asking questions. See, there's
yeah,
nothing wrong with asking questions.
at
You know what I'm
all.
saying? If something that somebody say strikes you kind of odd, ask them a question. Just kind of really understand, like, okay, what is their thinking? What is their logic, right? See, we don't like to ask questions. That's why it's important to ask questions before you jump to conclusions. See, I've gotten in the habit of that as well because I used to do that. I used to be like, oh, you said, I used to take what somebody say and I try to, jump to a conclusion. But really, what I like to do now in a conversation, I like to ask questions as to why. That's part of understanding. If you don't understand something like you've been taught, ask questions, right? Ask questions to get a better understanding. See, we don't do that with a lot. We don't like to ask open-ended questions. What we like to do is as soon as somebody say something that they don't agree with, oh, you canceled. Oh, you
Yeah.
can't. You said that, you canceled. But you didn't really ask to see what they really meant. You know what I'm saying? You never really asked them to really get the full meaning. All you did was just like we said before, selective attention span. You only heard the part that you thought that you wanted to hear, but you didn't hear the whole story. So
Yeah.
again, really all this comes down to is communication. That's it for real. That's all we have to do for real. Everything that transpires, a lot of tension that happens is because of miscommunication. So we got to get to a place where we got to stop being scared to talk and have conversations with people for real. We got to stop feeling like that. Because at the end of the day, we people.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So, at the end of the day, we're allowed to talk and we're allowed to communicate and we're allowed to, really get to understand each other for real. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I think that that's key communication, and along like you did, you practice the voice of curiosity, asking questions, and just trying to understand what's going on, what others are thinking, why they feel this way, and learning that. I think that people are much more susceptible to have a conversation with you when you are curious, because it shows that you really want to know what the person is thinking, and you're not trying to judge them. And judging doesn't mean, oh, you're this or that. It just means when you come from a voice of judgment, it's like, oh, well, why you think like that, or delineating, like they say, you're kind of just assuming like they are this way or they're this way, and then you cut them off without really knowing anything about that person. That person may be a really good person. You just don't know. You know, with my situation with my uncle, I remember I just used my voice of, curiosity. Oh, really? I didn't know. And why is that? And I asked him, and he brought forth a couple of points that were really valid. And I said, "Oh, that's great, uncle. Okay, thanks for letting me know, and I left it at that. And I walked away with an understanding of something that I never had an understanding of. And I was okay with it. I was okay with him being from that political affiliation, or being, voting for someone else. It didn't bother me at all. And so I was able to understand it. And I think that's, like you said, it's key, the communication.
There you go. There you go, man. That's really it, man. I had
Yeah.
the maintenance dude came in, so I was like trying to figure out what he was saying for real. That's why I was on mute. Cause I was like, man, I'm like, what? I'm like, who called maintenance, bro? I don't know what we're talking about. I don't know. That was our topic, but yeah, no, I think y'all understand the point, man. Like, I challenge y'all, man, as y'all go out, man. Like I said, man, you really gotta be careful, man, who you let out of your circle, man. Cause one little disagreement, man, should not end your friendship. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Just because they see differently, just because they may view things differently politically or socially, or the fact that they might have a different zodiac sign. I mean, that's something new that's been implemented in the divide. Apparently, people can't talk to other people because they got different zodiac signs. I ain't never heard of that.
Me neither.
You know what that is? You heard of that, Sandra? You heard of zodiac signs? You
I
never
mean, I know zodiac signs. I don't really I know I'm an Aquarius, but I don't really get into like the constellations. I I don't um I just don't. It doesn't attract me, but some people really get into it. But I've never heard that one.
apparently, like,
What's it-
my roommate was trying to talk to a girl, and she asked him what his zodiac sign was. He told her, and she ain't never talked to him again. I was like, bro. I was like, man, yeah. He told me that, bro. He told me he got cut off because of a zodiac sign. Like, this is a real thing. But apparently, like, I don't know why people take it so seriously. I don't understand why. And that's another opinion. That's another unpopular opinion that I have that somebody might get mad about, somebody might get offensive, but I'm not gonna be worried about that. But like I said, the reason I bring that up is just because, like, you shouldn't divide yourself based on what people are and what they
Yeah,
stand for. You know what I'm saying? So as long, like I said, I think if you don't take nothing else away from this conversation, just understand. So we need to start building each other up for real, and we gotta
yeah,
start coming together, man. Because there's a lot of things that's been implemented out here on purpose to divide us and to make us feel like, oh, we gotta be in competition with everybody. That's not how we're supposed to live. We're supposed to live like tearing each other down, trying to, take advantage of each other. We weren't put here on this earth to do this type of stuff. But again, because of the propaganda and a lot of the things on that we see on TV, that we see in the news, man, we feel like this is normal. We feel like it's normal to be divided. It's normal to fight. It's normal to argue. That's how we think. We've been programmed to think that, oh, like, we're supposed to not take each other in consideration, and we're supposed to cut people off because they believe in different political views, or stuff like that, man. We've been programmed to think like that, man. But I'm trying to tell
Yeah.
y'all, man, this is not how we supposed to live, man. Imagine if we come together and we really, join hands with one another for real. You imagine how much farther and how much better of a place this world could be, man, if we just stop letting our differences get in the way. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? We was meant here. We was all on the same planet. We all people. Why are we scared of each other, or why we, think that just because somebody don't look like us, that we feel like we better? You know what I'm saying? We gotta get past all that, man. That's all. I mean, that's really what I want to close out with, man. Yeah, I just gotta think about that, man. Before you get mad at somebody, you gotta think, man. That person human just like you human, man. That person
Yeah.
here, that person bleed red just like you bleed red. That person got feelings just like you got feelings. So
Yeah.
before you be quick to tear somebody down, man, make sure you keep all that in consideration and know that, hey, man, that person could be that piece that you need to build your foundation. But because you too closed-minded, or because you too stubborn to see their differences and embrace their differences, like, you could just missed out on a great relationship with that person.
Yeah.
So that's really all I got to say for real. Sandra, did you want to say anything else?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna close with become curious. Become curious. Leave that voice of judgment behind and bring up a voice of curiosity and really get to know a person. Like you said, it might just be that one relationship in your lifetime where it might last a lifetime, and they may be that friend, that boyfriend, whether it's not a boyfriend or not, whatever relationship it is, but it may be something that's going to help you and uplift you for a lifetime. So become curious. And like you said, we all bleed one color.
There
And
you
I'll
go.
leave it at that.
There we
Yeah.
go. All right. I thought that was a pretty good episode, man. Hey, make
Me
sure
too.
y'all check us out on Instagram, man. Check me out at Disaffecting Your Life. That's no spaces, no capitals. Also, check out my girl Sandra at Sandy Yvette. Now, make sure to put that in the description as well. And keep up with us, man. Like I said, man, connect with us. Hit us up in the DMs, man. If you got any questions, man, or anything like that, hit us up, man. If you want to give us some positive feedback, hit us up as well. Definitely go, like I said, go follow us on Instagram and check out our new segment, man. Check out, actually, this is hosted by Sandra. Check out the Mindset Mondays that we're gonna continue to do every Monday as well. So we got that in store for y'all, man. So definitely you're gonna get a double dose of us. So definitely go keep up with us, man, and everything that we doing. Like, comment, subscribe, everything, man. We out there, man. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Facebook. Go check me out. Go check out my book, Step Towards Your Purpose, man. I've been hearing, man, it's been making a very, very positive impact. I actually talked to my granddad not too long ago, man. He was like, man, I love this book, man. I use it in my everyday life. I even told my therapist about it, and the therapist loved it. She got her a copy. She about to give her kids a copy. I was like, man, like I said, like, just hearing that, man, just hearing that positive feedback, knowing that, like I told y'all, man, I wrote this book because, I wanted to build that legacy. So that legacy is more important than anything, man. Cause, like I said, if I can make a difference in somebody's life, that's really what my mission is. So, like I said, man, definitely go get the book, man. Step Towards Your Purpose, still on Amazon. Where you can also go to my Instagram, click the link tree in my bio. You can get direct access that way. So definitely go check it out, man. Cause like I said, it's got a lot of great information in there. So with that, without further ado, man, like I said, we gonna go ahead and close it out for the day. This your boy Chris Simmons alongside special. Well, actually, you know what? My partner in crime, Sandra Cruz. We out, man. We'll see
We
y'all,
out.
man. Take care.
Bye, guys.
Peace.
Take care.